All right, so this is going to be the first time ever on my channel that I am featuring gouramis. Outside of like store tours, I don't think there's a single gourami on my channel. So I'm super excited about this. I'm not a gourami expert. Cameron is more of an expert. I don't know, would you consider yourself a gourami expert?
I like the good ones.
Don't we all? All right, so let's just get into it. So we're starting with licorice gourami, huh?
Yeah, I love these little guys. These are, I would say, actually probably one of my favorites, so we'll cheat a little bit here. Have kept these guys. Licorice gouramis are ones that growing up in very hard water Indiana were always like forbidden fruit. It's like we'll never see them, we'll never keep them, so I'm very lucky, very gracious that I have the chance now. Keeping licorice gouramis is definitely strange, and I think that for a lot of people it's really daunting. A lot of what you read is they're very sensitive, they're very slow-moving, they're very shy, which of course you can see here. Yeah, they're a little shy. They don't typically take to dried foods at all. Mine certainly never did. Like black water, like smaller tanks, it's a tricky one because, of course, if you keep them at a very low pH, if you keep them in small environments, which you typically want to do to spawn them, to make them look their best, I always like really adding a ton of tannins where it's like you squint, you see those flashes of color. It can be a little bit tricky depending on your fish keeping style where, yeah, how do you do a water change on a 2.5 gallon or a 5 gallon tank where the pH is 5? Well, maybe you set out some water off to the side. Maybe you don't keep the pH quite that low unless you're trying to breed them. I will say that in terms of just general maintenance and care, I've had plenty of, oh, look at that guy, wow. Yeah, that's part of why they call that the fire and ice licorice gourami. I love these guys so much. I've not been fortunate enough to spawn them, but anywho, they seem to be fine here in our very soft, admittedly Portland tap water as far as I can tell, 6.5, 7 with negligible mineral content, other than giving them frozen food that they do tend to prefer live. I had good luck with tube effects worms or baby brine or daphnia that was frozen. Great fish. These are kind of like some of the killies where you do need a little bit of dedication to make them look their best, to succeed with them, so to speak. But they are, I mean, look at that guy. Who doesn't want that? And keep in mind, this is him in just kind of a bare bones stock tank right here. With tannins, with it a little bit more settled, these look just magnificent. There's a reason that they are so desirable for folks, and of course of big conservation importance as well. Not from us aquarists, but because of palm oil plantations. There's a wonderful site, the Paros Frominus project, that are trying to keep these going, keep bloodlines good, keep them pure, make sure we know locations, and just keep these wonderful little fish around because unfortunately their habitat's probably going to be gone much sooner than later.
Okay, so since I'm a big gourami fan, I have decided to step in and take over here. And this is a familiar favorite for many. What can you tell us about these guys?
This might be the perfect community fish. Don't get too large, maximum size of 4 inches. Both sexes are attractive. You can see here females, nice short dorsal, males much more elongate. They're stunning. This is, again, this is a sail tank. There's no substrate, there's no additional plants. Imagine what these look like when they're in a more settled home aquarium. I mean, this is absurd. It's beautiful. I've seen them alongside cherry shrimp, alongside a mono shrimp, alongside ember tetras with no issue. Don't have an aggressive bone in their body. They can be kept with larger stuff. They can be kept with smaller stuff. What is the downside here? There's nothing. They're available, they're common, they're hardy, they're inexpensive, they're easy enough to breed with enough challenge that somebody that is getting into more advanced stuff will still have a fun time with these. I mean, just look at it. It's a pearl gourami. It is around for so many good reasons.
I've never heard a bad thing about them, so I'd have to agree with that. Nice looking fish. Okay, so I'm actually really excited about these guys. Please tell us more. These are a really cool fish.
So this is a very desirable one for those in the loop, so to speak. This is Macropodus ocellatus, the dark night paradise fish. This is one of those ones that you'll see pictures on Facebook or Instagram or some other social media and be like, whoa, and then you see them here temporarily and, you know, I can forgive people for not being as impressed, but you can see some of the colors already starting to show through. Are going to be very similar to a lot of paradise fish, and yeah, they're feisty with each other, and they're going to fight with each other a bit. They are gorgeous, they are stunning. We've been lucky enough to get this. I believe this is a first for us, or if it isn't, it's the first time in probably 6-7 years. These came to us by way of Vietnam, and they are treasures. I don't have a spot for these guys right now at home, otherwise I would have some. but these are an incredible paradise fish. One of my absolute favorites. Very cool, very lucky to be able to care and work for these guys.
I'm in the same boat. If I had room for them, I'd have them. They're great. So here is another one I think everybody in the free fish keeping world knows about. So what's the deal with these guys?
Top 5 fish, fish store workers hate. Dwarf gouramis are targets of Van's avarice. You can see why everyone would want them. Gorgeous color, lots of different morphs, ton of personality. They're like little water dogs. Are they a little inbred and can have, unfortunately, a few downsides to them? Yeah. Are they just aggressive enough that occasionally, as a fish store worker, you'll get a return on a very mean gourami for whatever reason? Yes. You can see the positives. That's why I'm being a jerk and pointing out the downsides. Are they a bad fish? No. Am I biased as an old salt? Yeah, a little bit. But it is a very good fish. I do like the dwarf gourami. I do know these are now, I believe, fasciata. We're still using Lalius because otherwise that's really confusing.
Yeah.
Am aware of that article, still figuring that out. It's a wonderful fish, and every so often we will get the wild morph, which are really, truly jewels, and it really reminds me why this fish is what it is, why it's so popular, why it's so desirable.
I definitely agree with that. The wilds are really pretty. Yeah. These guys they're tried and true. What else can you say about that, right? Okay, and these guys are a bit of an anomaly in a few ways, but they are so stunning, and I'm so obsessed with them that we have to know more.
So according to Wikipedia, these are gouramis, and because common names are made up, and also everything's a loach and or barb according to them, we're throwing them in.
Right.
Luciacephalus are incredible. These are going to be from very black water habitats, typically pH around 4. These are Luciacephalus aura, the peppermint pikehead. Gorgeous spangling. I believe this is the one. There's 2 species in the genus, Aura and Pulcher. They're both wonderful. These stay a lot smaller. These will get about 5 inches long. Pulcher gets much larger, about 7 to 8. I believe these have been bred. I don't think anybody's gotten fry out of them, but they are ambush predators. They have a massive mouth. They're going to sneak up on rasboras and stuff in the wild and eat them. In captivity, if you don't want to feed feeder fish, and hoo boy, I don't blame you, we don't feed them that here. Live worms, live larger meals will be fine, and one trick that I've had to get these guys to eat, admittedly slowly, they are very deliberate, they don't like to really pluck frozen food off the bottom, is if you have a flat pack of brine shrimp, or especially bloodworms, which they seem to crave, you break off little bits, you let them float up at the top, and as they sink through the water column, they will snipe at them. It is a lot of work, it is a lot of worm to get them to really gain weight and bulk. If you are an aquarist who's open to feeding them healthy, optimal feeder fish, that might be the way to get them to spawn. But in terms of care, practically speaking, you can have them go that way. Preferably, you would have a larger catfish that isn't going to bother them or something along the bottom to then eat the excess food, or else you will be siphoning forever. And down here, actually, at the bottom left, that fellow that does not have the spangles is the Pulcher. That is the other species. They do, unfortunately, come in intermingled, although the vast majority of these appear to be Aura. I like Pulcher better because they're bigger and uglier, but they're wonderful fish. Much like the South American leaf fish, they're just one definitely for the dedicated hobbyist. Maybe not an expert, but definitely somebody with some time and care under their belt, because they are definitely not the easiest to keep going.
From what I understand, in addition to being an ambush predator, they're also very shy. So it's kind of that's what I meant by the whole anomaly thing, is they can be very reserved, so you can't really keep them with the whole lot, but if you have anything small that might not freak them out, they're probably going to eat it. So
I will throw out whenever I've kept them, generally alone or again alongside a catfish. They tend to do this. They just sit in the water, and I keep them at about 6.5 pH, and they seem fine with it. So there is some wiggle room, at least in terms of setup and parameter, but it is still a bit of a doozy to keep them looking good, unless you happen to have like a colony of guppies somewhere that you don't mind if you going missing out of.
Who would mind that, really? I mean, come on. Well, these are just amazing, and for those of you that have a lot of experience and want a nice fun challenge, I think this is a great fish. All right, so here is what I would consider to be another very tried and true aquarium staple fish. Tell us about these guys.
So this fish, in contrast to the dwarves, which I wrinkle my nose at a little bit, again, for biased human reasons, these fish are great. Both the sunset and the standard honey dwarf gouramis, this is the one that I think folks probably are a little bit less familiar with. This is the wild type. These are very hardy. They seem to have pretty much no health problems, even the sunsets. Why that is, I have no idea. They've been tank raised, I assume, for reasonably speaking, decades, a million years comparatively, they are beautiful. I know that right now these juveniles probably aren't impressing anyone too terribly much. It's grayish with a stripe. You're starting to see some of that nice yellow dorsal, this guy down at the bottom. The males get this incredible scarlet to them. Magnificent black on the ventral region. When they're happy, it seems like that is always on. They're super peaceful. They do stay smaller than the standard dwarf gourami, the Lelius. I really like tuna. The wild type, like these guys especially, I'm a big fan of, and we're every once in a while lucky enough to get truly wild ones, which look the same as these. I don't think you're getting stiffed too much. You just need some time and patience. This truly is a great community dwarf gourami. Their biggest sin is if you cram too many in, like any fish, you may have some squabbling, but in terms of are they gonna pick on other stuff? No. I've kept these successfully alongside sparkling gouramis. Wonderful fish, very hardy, very inexpensive, a really good, in every aspect, beginner gourami.
I love that wild coloration personally. I think it's very cool. It's nice that you have those. You don't see them all the time, so awesome. So these guys are one of my personal favorites, and I know they can be a little on the shy side, so we've got some hiding right now, but this guy right here, you can see. Tell us about these guys.
So chocolate gouramis, we're spoiled here because this is another childhood fish where I had never seen them. Nobody's going to keep that in Indiana tap water at 8.2. So here in Portland, they tend to do very well in our tap, which is great for us. Nice little reversal. Chocolate gouramis from our bias side of the country seem to be reasonably unproblematic, actually. I know a lot of folks are probably going to absolutely call BS on that one, but in terms of what we see, so long as we remove velvet from them, which they, along with other blackwater fish, can be very prone to, awful little parasite, they tend to do very well. I am lucky enough that I get to watch these guys a lot. We'll get them in large numbers. They do seem to be pretty sedate. At worst, they'll chase and scoot along with each other and just snap at each other, but very sedate, very, I want to say delicate, but again, I don't think that's the case. At least here, they tend to do very well for us. This is not a terribly hard fish to feed. So long as your water parameters are good and you're okay with a little bit of shyness, I think they're wonderful. Color, especially when they're mature, shines through. Females and males are both attractive. Really great fish. I really have come to appreciate the chocolate gourami.
Yeah, they're super solid. All right, so these guys I do not see all the time, and I love them. So what's their deal?
I'm still truthfully figuring this fish out a little bit myself. Noble gouramis, I believe, are a blackwater fish and occur in blackwater environments. They have the camo patterns. They're prone to velvet like a lot of blackwater gouramis. Horst Linka's Labyrinth Fish World, which is very comprehensive, an incredible book if you have $100 to shell out on a book exclusively about bettas and gouramis, states that they were found in more of a karstic environment with a higher pH, so I'm not sure what that's about. These are sometimes called the frail gourami as well, and I think part of that is they don't seem to like big water changes. They like it stable. They don't really take dried food. They will take freeze-dried food, like Daphnia or bloodworms, fairly easily, live food, frozen food. They don't seem to care as much about pH, at least in my experience. I've kept them in our tap water, but they do hate each other. They are filled with conspecific anger. Well, if you keep them with other fish, say I've had them in amongst tetra communities until I found a better spot for them, other fish will just zoom by and steal the food and they will just back out of the way from them. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly how this fish works. I've kept them for about a year or so in the past, but I'm still just trying to dial in how to keep these guys long term. Definitely not something for the typical hobbyist, but they're really cool. And definitely here in the back corner, I'll try to shine a little bit of a light. We're keeping them a bit more dimly to let them kind of settle in. You can see that very interesting patterning, that very interesting color, and just that bizarre look. Very cool fish. One that we're fortunate enough to get in large enough numbers a couple times a year, but definitely an odd duck, especially considering that weird beaky face they have.
I love it.
But again, if you're dedicated, if you set aside some space and at least a 20 or 30 gallon for a few of them, since they're so full of anger, even male on female or vice versa violence, this is one of my favorite gouramis, if not my favorite. I think these guys are fascinating, and I'm going to dial them in yet.
Here is one of my very favorites. What's the deal with these guys?
I think this is like the filter for whether you think a brown fish can be ugly or not, because I think these are beautiful.
They are beautiful.
I'm not going to terribly argue against that. I love weeksea. These are my favorite bush fish by far. Again, you can maybe call these a gourami. I don't know. It's all made up.
Gourami-ish.
Bush fish, whatever. Weeksea get about 4 inches long. They will get fat as hell. They're a rarity. It's been a while since we've had weeksea, and typically if we can get them, it's about once a year, maybe twice. I really, really like this fish. I've had them in community settings, never had a problem. And again, chase each other, you know, shove each other out of the way is kind of the verbiage I always like to use to say, you'll see a split fin here and there. Kept them alongside bigger fish, smaller fish, never had a problem. If you're gonna breed them, soft water, acidic water, darker water, but in terms of me plunking these in many different tanks across my fish room over the years, wherever they seem to need to be, I've always had luck with these guys. I love this fish. I am extraordinarily tempted to pluck some of these guys, but I don't know if it's meant to be right this second, but awesome fish, bold, and these will get fat as hell for you. They will beg like dogs once they're settled and they know you are the gravy train.
Do not rule out brown fish, people. They are very cool. They deserve love too. These guys are another one of my favorites. I really have a thing for these type of gouramis, so let's hear about these guys.
Valanti is incredible. This is the Valent or Samurai chocolate gourami. Interesting in that, at least to us humans, I would say most folks, and myself included, would say the females are the more attractive sex. Like this one right there in the middle, in better lighting, and of course we're keeping them dim. It's a blackwater fish. They'll have these red and blue iridescent stripes on the body that is just awesome. Males are still really pretty, same kind of interesting chocolate gourami patterning, but stunning. I really like these guys. Again, here in Portland, we've been lucky, and in my experience, so long as you meet their environmental needs, I haven't found them to be terribly problematic. At worst, in the large numbers we see them, yeah, they might bully each other a little bit, but this would be a great fish alongside some Bararis or Sundadania or something else like that, or blackwater, say loaches like a forktail, or smaller catfish like some of the Pseudomystis even. These are awesome fish. I inexcusably have still not yet kept these despite almost 7 years here. Every time I see them look like that, though, I kick myself and say, what am I doing? Just set up a 10-gallon for them, Cameron. Just do it. Great fish. I really like these. I'm grateful that we seem to have these so often.
You guys do, and I'm always impressed by that because there's not enough of these types of gouramis out there. So don't sleep on these guys. They're very fun fish to keep. So here's another staple, I feel like, that we see a lot. Tell us about these guys.
Oh, this is a filter for if you can find silverfish attractive or not. I really like moonlights. These were the third gourami that I ever kept growing up, and they do get bigger. Supposedly lengths up to 8 inches, reasonably speaking. I've mostly seen them around 5 or 6. In my experience, as they grow larger, they get kind of this lavender metallic sheen to them underneath the silver. It's really pretty. They are very laid back. They're very gentle. I've never had an aggression problem. And if anything, I've had these things get bullied or cowed out of the way by stuff way smaller than them. I love moonlights. Once they settle in, they're very, very hardy. And interestingly enough, as long as I'm remembering right, this is a food fish. I've been to Asian markets and seen these as food before alongside some of our other aquarium pets like tinfoil barbs and fire eels. Peacock eels, there we go. Have I tried them? No. Are we going to cross that off the list at some point? Yes. But jokes aside, moonlights are a great fish. Again, one that's been around for a while that I think get overlooked too much. Treat yourself at some point. Get a moonlight.
Okay, so I actually think this is a really pretty gourami. Tell us about these.
So these are the opaline morph of the 3-spot gourami. There's also the golds, the lavenders, and the blues, and these are pretty much blues. I'm partially colorblind, I can't tell. This is going to be very close to the wild type. If I'm remembering my history right, in the 50s, somebody named Cosby or Crosby developed this strain. I believe they're interchangeable. If not gourami enthusiasts, please bully me in the comments. But a very nice fish. Do they get larger? Yeah, up to 6 inches, although 4 seems to be more standard. Are they kind of bullies to smaller community stuff? Yeah. Do these go together with a gold angel or something like peanut butter and jelly? Yeah. They are good fish. These were my first gourami. When I was a dumb kid, I had these right after my piranha, and I really enjoyed them. You know, they're hardy, they're easy to keep, they're like $4 on average or something. It's a good fish. Again, it's overlooked because a lot of us serious aquarists are, you know, we get in our ways. We overlook some of the classics, and then you think about it, you keep them in their classics for a reason. This is a really good fish. We'll get back around to them eventually.
I think that's very true. I think that happens a lot. So yeah, these are very cool. Okay, here is one of the coolest little fish I may have ever kept. I really love these guys, so let's hear about them.
This is a fish that's almost omnipresent, typically is wild-caught specimens from Thailand. Yeah, they'll chew on each other a little bit. You'll see some nicks out of fins. Forgive us, we have hundreds in here. They stay small, they're beautiful, they're reasonably bold without being overtly. These are the second gourami I ever kept alongside some cherry barbs and some other small Asiatic fish, and I still love them. I keep them on and off over the years. I keep coming back again and again because I like these so much. They're fun to watch, they're tiny. You can have 6 in a reasonably small tank and oh no, they'll nip at some fins here and there. They're very attractive. Just look at them. The shiny eyes, the red, the greens, the blues, they're small, they're cheap, they're hardy. What bad part, other than, again, a little bit of chasing here and there, is there to say about a sparkling gourami? It's a great fish. It's something that I think probably everybody should keep at some point. There's really no excuse. You need a 5-gallon for a pair or something, a 10-gallon for a couple. It's a great little fish, and it's something that I'm looking at the clock. It's time for me to keep them again. I love this fish. Every time we get them, I say, hey, you know, we should get around to it. I've got the perfect spot for them. I'm going to do it.
Cameron's getting some sparkling gourami, guys. I'm excited. Thank you so much, Cameron. I think we learned a lot about gouramis, and everybody should go get some. And please visit wetspottropicalfish.com and check out all these beautiful fish and use code Steenfott10 for 10% off.